My grandfather left me a clock that unlocks something at midnight. When my grandfather passed away, he left behind a modest will, some land upstate, a few weather journals, and an old, freestanding wooden clock. The kind you see in movies where someone's always winding it slowly while thunder cracks outside. But this one was different. Taller than any grandfather clock I'd ever seen. It stretched nearly to my ceiling. And instead of a clear glass face, it had an opaque, smoky pane with no visible hands behind it. The chime mechanism was missing entirely. Where the pendulum should have swung was a hollow void, blacker than shadow, as if it weren't just empty, but hungry. The clock arrived at my door 2 days after his burial. No note. No delivery slip. Just a brass plate at the base, engraved with the name, H. Grandhalter. That was him. But beneath it, in smaller, more recent lettering, was my own name, Lucas Halter. It hadn't been there at the funeral. Someone had added it after. From the first night, the clock behaved strangely. It didn't tick. Didn't talk. It just sat there, perfectly still, until midnight. That's when it would emit a low click, sharp enough to make your bones stiffen, and unlock a panel at the bottom. The first night, I thought maybe it had been rigged with a spring or sensor. But when I checked the mechanism the next morning, the latch was gone. Just smooth, untouched wood. No screws. No hinges. Like the door had never existed at all. I didn't think much of it at first. Chalked it up to grief and imagination. But the second night, it happened again, at exactly 12 o'clock. I sat in the dark, watching it. When the minute struck, I heard the click. The panel eased open, not all the way, just enough to reveal the tiniest sliver of darkness inside. And this time, there was something breathing behind it. By the fourth night, I couldn't sleep. I stayed up with every light on, waiting. The air around the clock had grown cold, like it was sucking heat from the room. My walls had started to peel, and my cat wouldn't go near it, just sat outside the door, growling low in her throat like she was watching something I couldn't see. When midnight came, the panel opened again. Wider this time. And something whispered my name. It wasn't my grandfather's voice. It wasn't human at all. It sounded like air leaking from a tomb, like language made of breath and regret. I slammed the panel shut, wedging a chair against it, and backed into the hallway. But the next morning, the chair was untouched, and the panel was sealed again. Like nothing had happened. Except the floor beneath the clock now bore faint, scorched markings, like symbols burned into the wood and quickly erased. Desperate, I started reading his journals. They weren't full of memories or family names. They were logs. Rituals. Every entry detailed the clock, the gatekeeper, he called it, and how it had been in our bloodline for generations. He never said where it came from. Only that it feeds. That at midnight, once every 24 hours, it opens just wide enough to let something pass through. The earlier entries were cautious. Scientific, even. But as the years passed, his handwriting grew jagged, panicked. Near the end, he wrote, "It's opening wider now. I don't think I can close it anymore. It knows I'm dying. It wants the next name on the plate. It wants Lucas. I haven't slept in 3 days." The last time the panel opened, I saw a hand. Not flesh, not bone, but something in between. Thin and gray, fingers too long, nails curled like old roots. It gripped the edge of the door and slid something into the room. A pocket watch. My grandfather's, long buried with him. It landed on the floor with a soft thud. Still ticking. Still warm. That was last night. Tonight, I think the panel will open all the way. It's already unlatched. The wood around it is cracking. The floorboards underneath are buckling like there's pressure behind them, like the thing is pressing against the skin of the world trying to get through. I've boarded up the room. Pushed furniture against their walls. But I don't think it'll matter. The air is too still. The second hand on the pocket watch has started to move backwards. I don't know what happens when it gets to zero. But I can hear it now. Crawling inside the walls. Whispering in the voices of people I know. And it keeps saying one thing over and over again. It's midnight somewhere. The voice came from inside the walls, not muffled, not distant, but right against the drywall like someone was speaking with their lips pressed to it. It's midnight somewhere. The words didn't echo. They slid through the room like fog, like they were being whispered directly into my spine. The pocket watch, my grandfather's, ticked louder now. It was no longer in sync with the seconds on the wall clock. It had taken on a rhythm of its own, a kind of slow heartbeat. I swear it vibrated, like it was warming up for something. Every time I tried to throw it away, I found it closer to me than before, on my pillow, in my shoe, once resting perfectly on my chest when I jolted awake. That night, last night, the house began to change. Not visibly, but in a way I could feel. My hallway grew longer. The shadows stayed even when I turned the lights on. Doors I'd never closed now resisted opening, and the walls creaked with tension like they were holding something back. I could feel the pressure, like the air was swelling, like the house itself was bracing for something. I tried to leave. Packed a bag, grabbed my keys, and ran to the front door. But when I opened it, there was no outside. Just fog. Thick, cold, pulsing like it had a pulse of its own. I stepped forward and almost threw up, because beyond the fog wasn't my street, or my driveway. It was the inside of my house. Another living room, slightly different. My photos crooked, the paint peeling in unfamiliar ways. A different version of my world, folded inside like a nesting doll. I slammed the door and backed away. That's when the clock began to chime. It shouldn't have been able to. It had no visible chime rods. But it rang 12 deep, resonant bells. And with each one, the room grew darker. The walls stretched higher. Shadows bled from the corners and curled upward like smoke. And then, the panel at the base of the clock creaked open on its own. No click. No warning. Just a slow, wet groan, like tearing muscle. Something stepped out. It wasn't a figure at first. Just a silhouette. A ripple in space that shimmered like heat off pavement. But the more I looked, the more it began to solidify. Long limbs, bent the wrong way. A torso that pulsed like lung. No face, just smooth, featureless skin, except where the eyes should have been. There, 2 keyholes glowed faint red, and I swear they locked onto me. It didn't speak. It didn't have to. I knew what it wanted. It had crossed through. The clock wasn't a timepiece. It was a gate, a vessel that marked how long the barrier held. Midnight wasn't about the hour. It was about alignment. A moment when something deeper than time, something older, could breach the skin of our world. And I was the latch. My name was the permission. I ran. Stumbled upstairs. The house was no longer a house. Each hallway was longer than it should have been. My bedroom door was on the wrong side. I turned a corner and nearly collided with myself, or a version of me, standing in a mirror that had never been there. The reflection blinked when I didn't. It smiled. In the end, I locked myself in the attic. Nailed the trapdoor shut. I could still hear it moving below. Not stomping, gliding. It didn't knock. It didn't need to. I knew the moment I stopped watching the clock, it would find a way up. Now I sit with the clock in front of me. The pocket watch ticking softly in my palm. Midnight is approaching again. This time, the red glow isn't just in the panel, it's leaking from the edges of the wood, like the thing inside is pressing against it, eager to return. I think my grandfather held it off for decades. I think it wanted him for a long time, but he gave it me. Passed the key down like a cursed heirloom. Maybe every generation gets one. Maybe you'll be next. Because I can hear it again. That voice. Right outside the attic door. It's midnight somewhere. And tonight, it's here.